So welcome once again. Do you know what this is? Yes, of course you do. It's a remote control toy. It's a drone. We're familiar with remote control toys, but the drones that we have been reading about and hearing about more recently are far from toys. These are the robots, the remote control planes that first of all have been used in war. In the Middle East, in Ukraine, and who knows how many other places. Unmanned flights across the borders of different countries, so accurate that the one who is controlling them from a distance can target some of the enemy driving along a road in his own country, their own country, and kill. Drones. A sign now of a warfare that has begun to change. It means that by using a drone and targeting your enemy while you are in the safety of your own country has become a possibility. You would think of this as being a positive effect of drones, that they can target the enemy and kill without a single one of the soldiers of the country making the attack being involved on the ground in war. It's a very positive advantage if you are the one controlling the drone. Far from a positive advantage if you just hear or see the drone fly overhead and the next minute destruction and death. These drones can not only target individuals, they can destroy even whole buildings like hospitals without the one attacking ever crossing the borders into his enemy's country. We also had another story of the activities of drones quite recently, when one of these drones crashed into a parking lot across the border, but it didn't reach where it was meant to go. And when it was investigated by the police, they discovered that it was full of illegal drugs. And when this became headlines in our paper, our newspapers, we were told now the most important part of the investigation is to whom does this drone belong and who actually is controlling it. When we sit back for a moment and think of these two incidents that have come to our attention in the media recently, it seems to make nonsense of our border controls, of the numbers of people we employ in airports to search hand luggage, and all the sniffer dogs that are meant to see or tell if we are carrying illegal drugs. You just simply fly them across the border without anybody being involved. Who has the control? Robots. They're part of everyday life in a way that perhaps we haven't yet realized. We hear of them used in many ways. I've just picked out a few. One of them is the report of robotic surgery, surgery with robots, surgery on patients with cancer in rather delicate and difficult parts of the body. We also know that robots are used in heart surgery. So more and more we hear of the use of robots in medical practice. Another one which is a favourite of mine is this. He looks like a teddy bear. but in actual fact he's a robot. This was not designed for any purpose to do with robots. It was simply designed by a group of researchers who were looking at the importance or the role of emotion in our human perception of the reality around us. So they designed this teddy bear called Huggable, who responds to the emotions of a young child. If the child cries, the teddy bear consoles it. If the child hits, the teddy bear hits back. If the child laughs, the teddy bear is huggable. Of course, there are a limited number of emotions that the robot will respond to, but it proved a point. And also, of course, the child does what the robot does not. The child changes and grows older. We have robots in other ways too. This is just, I think, last December. Yes, December the 5th. When NASA put into space the Orion spacecraft, which eventually is going to handle goods for the International Space Station, also bring crews up there and bring the crews back home. But that's not going to be for a few years yet, in the 2020s. But the important thing is that Orion made its first flight controlled from the ground, completely under the control, the remote control of a team on the ground. It flew and did exactly what it was meant to do for about 5 hours, and then crashed into the sea at exactly the point it was meant to crash. Robots. If we start looking, we find that they have entered many different aspects of our ordinary, everyday life. They've changed the nature of war, they've changed trafficking, they've changed the nature of surgery, and now perhaps rearing of children, and so on, and so on, and so on. What is the issue here? Remote control. Handing over the control to a program. We are in danger of handing over something else as well. Some months ago, before Orion was actually launched into space, we saw Orion on the ground in NASA's headquarters in Houston. And in a short conversation with one of the men who worked there afterwards, he said how important it had been for them to develop robots, because when you are exploring space, you're always going into a totally unknown, unpredictable world. And if we have robots to land on Mars or other of the minor planets, we will not be risking human life. And the key word here is risk. Because if you think of all the exploration that we have done as human beings, and all the progress we have made, whatever you want to call progress, change, development of our lives, it has always involved, in the initial stages, risk. Human beings can risk, robots cannot. Risk to fail, risk to have a result that's unexpected, and in exploration like space exploration, the risk of losing one's life. Human beings have to risk in order to discover. Without risk, we make no progress. We are all of us faced with one key important risk. It's called the risk of faith, of saying, I believe that, even though I cannot prove it, even though science and philosophy and religion cannot prove it, I can believe it. It's taking the risk across the abyss of mind, being able to go beyond mind and accept and experience what mind cannot understand and most certainly cannot control. A leap across the abyss, beyond mind to all that lies beyond mind. Now, this is the risk of faith. Far too few people among us as a human family today are prepared to take the risk of faith. And yet we know from all the centuries of experience of our family that's lived before us that the risk of faith in actual fact is no risk at all. We will be held, we are sure of the outcome. So what do we really risk? We risk giving up the illusion that we are in control. Though we have examples every day, we cannot even control the weather, the movement of the planet, and 1,001 other things. But we live with the illusion that we can control. We are responsible for our responses to the experiences that are offered to us. But ultimately, we do not control life. We cannot control. And so we take the leap across the limits of the mind, a risk in faith, a risk of losing control, and then we find everything.